They can survive without Mahomes right now. And listening to what Mr. Cowherd had to say, I'm in agreement with that, all right? A backup quarterback, whether dependent on the starter as much as this Kansas City Chiefs team is on Patrick, still should be able to get them at least 2 games as a backup. And so if you get a bye week in week 12, you're playing 4 games, that gives you 5 weeks. If you can finish out at a 500 pace, I feel like that's a win. So I'd say yes.
And that's why I'm glad you highlighted the bye week, because that's the extra week that you need. That really changes your mindset in terms of how you're going to play this injury out. The prognosis changes because of that extra week. So if you look at the schedule, it's like almost the scheduling gods are in their favor. Next 4 games, what do they have? The Packers, the Vikings, Titans, and Chargers in Mexico.
They could get 2 of those.
They could get 2 of those. I'm thinking a split right there, 3-1. You are loving life, but you can't rush this guy back with a 3-week prognosis to play him in Mexico with that field. And we already know the injury concerns that they had last year. So this is an injury that I think he'll return full strength post-bye week.
For me, it's not so much can they survive without him. It's what will the Raiders do while he's out for me. If the Raiders play well, for sure, Kansas City at best is going to go 2-2, at best with him not playing. I could see them losing to the Titans. The Chargers is a divisional game. They're going to be ready to play depending on how their season is. And so Matt Moore doesn't have an arm to really stretch the field and threaten defenses like Patrick Mahomes does. And so the field's going to get condensed with Mahomes not there. Can they survive? If the Raiders play well, the Chiefs won't survive this because they're losing to the Packers. They're losing to the Vikings. They might lose to the Titans. And so that's a tough stretch.
I totally agree.
I saw it in your face. I knew
you know it. Man, first of all, Kansas City can't run the football. They cannot run the football. I mean, you saw in the last couple of weeks, they've become dependent on Patrick Mahomes. The play action is not even play action anymore. They already know, hey, look, this is a throw. They're not running the football. They got 3 running backs. They got Shady McCoy, they've got Darren Williams and Darrell Williams. So which one runs? Just like the last night on that quarterback sneak. It's 2nd and 1. You can't get it. It's 3rd and 1. You can't get it. Now I got to go to my quarterback to run a quarterback sneak, and he gets hurt. And the big thing is Chad Henning Matt Moore is not even the backup. Chad Henning is the backup. Yeah. The real backup is out. So, how are you going to win these football games? You're talking about going to beat the Packers, who they lost one loss. You're going to beat the Vikings. You might beat Tennessee.
But Tennessee going to run the ball.
Exactly. And they can't stop the run.
They can't stop the run.
And they're going to a new quarterback in Tennessee that was scoreless last game.
But by that time, he would have already he got some games under his belt.
Right.
And Tennessee is stout on defense. That's going to be problematic for Kansas City.
But you do have to give Andy Reid some credit in knowing how to use his personnel. They'll figure out ways to screen, misdirect, get the ball to McCoy in space. Sometimes running isn't particularly handing the ball off. It could be a toss, a flare that's a little bit further away from the line, or again, maybe convincing the defense that you're trying to do something a little different.
What about Mike Pettin, defensive coordinator for the Packers? Mike Zimmer. Mike Vrabel. You don't think those guys that they're going to be playing know this as well? Like, they can coach also.
They still have weapons, though.
Yeah, but
they still have weapons on this team.
We can't forget to highlight Andy Reid and his greatness, what he does with not only the quarterbacks that we see, but the backup quarterbacks that are thrust into those situations. Let's go back to when Don McNabb got hurt.
Jeff Garcia.
Damn near was an MVP, it felt like that year, Jeff Garcia. And then let's talk about the NFL MVP this year.
Jeff Garcia was playing.
Okay, hold on.
No, this was late, Jeff Garcia.
He was still playing. He was still a player.
But who was Patrick Mahomes? He was a backup his first year into the last game. And then he becomes the NFL MVP in his first year as a full-time starter. That's, once again, a testimony to Andy Reid's greatness of preparing the guy who's next. Say what you want about Matt Moore. Last night, he looked more than serviceable.
What about Detmer?
Okay.
Throw Detmer in there if you don't want to use Garcia.
Hire Coy.
When you think about
whichever one he had.
When you think about Patrick Mahomes, no one was even sure about Patrick Mahomes.
Thank you.
Andy Reid wanted him. He moved up to get him, and he got what he wanted. Now he doesn't have him, and now what do? I still think that they're gonna struggle. I mean, when you can't run the football, they rely on the pass. I mean, they didn't. I think Tyreek Hill got one catch. What, one catch last night?
It was a touchdown.
Yeah, but
From Matt
He didn't have a target until the third quarter.
That's what. There were no targets. I mean,
But no, don't do this, because we saw when Drew Brees went down and the Rams ran over that team in shell shock. But then Teddy Bridgewater said, you know what? I understand what I'm prepared for.
But Teddy
and he went out
Bridgewater
there
was a
and balled out.
high-level starter.
quarterback.
I'm not done. There's a Matt Castle in New England when Tom Brady went down week 1.
That's
the Patriots.
That was not a high-level starter.
Not a high-level starter.
And they went out there and won another game.
That's the Patriots.
That was
Let's not
a high-level
act like
starter.
you can't be ready for these moments as a backup, as I was a backup, ready for that moment when Bruce Smith was gone. TJ, you could talk about
I
your
was
story.
a backup, yeah.
I was a backup.
But we got to understand.
I was a backup in
It's
college.
it's what Edie just said, though. Chad Henne's the back. Matt Moore was a scout for
There
the
we
Dolphins.
go.
Yes,
Matt
he
Moore
was.
was volunteering at Hart High School. Like, he wasn't
But
in
there's a
camp with
reason
them.
why he has the uniform on. There's a reason why Andy Reid has
Not
him starting.
discrediting Matt. Kansas City is good because Mahomes, you have to really guard the entire field. They got these speed receivers. You got to guard the entire field because Mahomes has that arm where he can threaten you at any moment. Matt Moore doesn't have that. So the field will be condensed. The defense will play a little tighter now.
Well, look, Eric, you were a backup in college, but a highly paid one at that, so let's just respect that.
No, he's bulletproof, and he's even bulletproof and immune to losing in Denver. And listen, I know that we live in a society where it's symptomatic of what have you done for me lately, but there's some people that exceed their exceptions to the rule, and I certainly look at John Elway as being one of those guys. He does have a little bit of goodwill. He doesn't have – he's not that far removed from the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning and having Coach Fox. At the least, I would give him at least one more quarterback, one more coach before he has to have that conversation with himself as to will he release the team.
And that's why I think there's a tug-of-war going on internally right now. One, you're competitive. You're John Elway. You are a Super Bowl champion. You are great at everything you've done, including business, as he runs a lot of the business affairs in Denver. But then the other side of the rope is, do I really need this? This is not my team. I'm not the team owner. I'm a team president. And Phil Jackson pops to mind when Phil Jackson, the all-time greatest coach by a wide margin probably, all of a sudden starts to take hits to his cachet, to his resume, because he's out of his lane. And no matter how great you are in this role, Phil Jackson, John Elway as a president, it's out of your control. You draft someone because you believe in them. Man, he didn't pan out. You put together a team and you say they look like they're ready, and it doesn't work out. And that's landing right on your lap. So Teflon or not, if I'm John Elway, I'm never going to get fired, but I could walk away, and this could be the year.
John Elway is an icon in Denver, and so could this be his final season? If he wants it to be, he won't be fired just because of the iconic things he's done in Denver. He's won a Super Bowl. Now, he won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. That's
2 Super Bowls.
That's tough. That's hard not to do, is to win a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning in that defense. If you look at Denver, they've been really good on defense since John Elway's been there. Where they faltered at is offensively. He can't get the right pieces. He can't find the right quarterback. He can't hire the right coaches. And so if he wants this to be his last season, he'll step down. I don't see that happening. But another head coach, to me, this should be a Vic Fangio or bust for me.
I'll give you an example. They had an autograph signing session in Denver, and Michael Jordan was there, the great Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was there, and John Elway was there, and other players. Now, you would think Michael Jordan goes everywhere. The line is out the door. Now, in Denver, who you think line is out the door?
John Elway.
John Elway's line is out the door. John Elway. Look, I agree with everyone here. John Elway is going to leave when John Elway wants to leave. I think the only thing that John hasn't been able to find is that quarterback. He drafted Paxton Lynch. That was a bust. Trevor Siemian, that was a bust. Got Joe Flacco here. I never was a big Joe Flacco fan. Joe Flacco. I mean, you got Brock Osweiler, which he didn't want to pay Brock Osweiler. That was a good call. He did bring him back, but that didn't work out. But I think John leaves when John wants to go. I mean, John like, hey, I don't need this anymore. But
Eric, it's a bad sign that you still think that Joe Flacco has some life left, some toothpaste in that tube.
do I think? I don't think
John Elway did.
I don't think Joe Flacco had. I didn't think he had nothing
And
left.
he still has 2 more years on this contract.
In defense of Flacco, he was
not
effective.
protecting him.
He was effective in Baltimore because he had a great defense.
Of course.
So John Elway's
And a running
thinking,
game.
we bring him to Denver. We have a great defense. We should be able to run the ball. Very similar to what he had in Baltimore. It just hasn't. You look at
TJ, he lost his job to a quarterback who they said couldn't throw. Like how good could Joe Flacco be if that's the guy that just supplanted you?
But look at him now. That guy that can't throw.
Yeah, I'm all in on Lamar Jackson. But this is a roster. There's only one drafted Pro Bowler, Von Miller. Think about it. 53-man roster, and you drafted one guy who's been to the Pro Bowl. That's an indictment on you, John Elway, in you being out of your lane, maybe a little in front of your skis in terms of what can you take on. The evaluation process, you can say he hasn't gotten the quarterback, but he's got the defense right. Has he gotten it collectively together? That's the issue, because that's how you're going to get evaluated in this role.
I think he's lost the continuity of what was there when he had a leader in John Fox. You can't undervalue what John Fox represented to the stability and the culture of that team. More so than a franchise quarterback right now, more so than one Pro Bowler on the team. I think you're looking at a team that is struggling to find that leadership that they need from that coach's position. And until they get that, I mean, you're talking about three different coaches, or excuse me, four. And was it three? How many is it in 3 and 4 seasons? That's quite a bit of change. And listen, I'm a product.
You talk continuity. You can't get
it.
You don't have any.
Right, you can't get it. I mean, I had at one point in time, I had more head coaches than I did years in the league. And believe you me, it is very difficult to have success, to create any type of sustainable success when you have that much turn. So I think that he has to, from a perspective of can he get this team back to where it needs to be, it's going to come from finding that right guy to put into that head coach's position.
And get a new left tackle. Y'all watch that game?
Oh, I tell you, see,
man,
I'm like,
it was a hold or a sack.
And who picks all of them? Who picks the coaches? Who picks that left tackle? It's all on John Elway. This is 3 non-playoff seasons, 2 that they're going to have losing seasons, 2 straight, maybe another. So this all lands on his lap. No matter how we want to shape it, it still falls back on a John Elway.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.